You know, I get asked a lot, Andoy, where do I invest? Where can I invest? Saan ko pwedeng ilagay yung pera ko? But this question comes from all sorts of uh, personalities, from beginners, students, uh, new hires, intermediate investors, seasoned ones, experienced traders. They always ask what are our options out there to take advantage of. Um, it might sound easy to answer, especially for investment professionals like me, but it's not that easy. Not because we don't know the answer to that question, but because there are a number of options. There are a number of options when it comes to actual options, but there are also a number of options because we need to factor in uh, the the person asking that question. We need to factor in that person's experience. We need to factor in that person's tolerance to risk. We need to factor in that person's capacity to invest. We need to factor in a lot of things, and that's essentially why it's very important that you get in touch, you approach the right person, because chances are, if you're going to deal with somebody who's just in it for commissions, if you approach somebody who's just in it because he's going to gain something from your investments, then you're into trouble. It's very important that you know whom to approach, whom to get in touch with, so that you get no nonsense advice, you get no nonsense recommendations. And again, there's the reason why we're doing things like this, because we'd like to share what we know. We'd like more and more Filipinos to be educated about investing, and we'd like to provide you with uh, uh, your options. I again chose to entitle this as Quarantine Investing, legit investing in the new normal, because we're going to talk about legitimate investments in the Philippines, but we're also going to talk about legitimate investments in the Philippines, which you can avail of, which you can invest in, which you can buy, even while we are quarantined. So, in true what global pandemic fashion, life does not need to stop even while we're locked down, even while we're observing community quarantine protocols. It's very important that you know your options. It's very important that you know legitimate options, and it's also very important that you know legitimate investment options, which are available online. So you no longer have to go to uh, investment houses physically. You no longer have to leave your home. You no longer have to run the risk of catching the virus by going outside. All right. But first off, let's talk about your investment options. Again, you have from the most basic deposits to bonds or certificates of indebtedness, stocks or share of ownership of publicly listed corporations, to real estate assets. They're arranged in that fashion because of their risk and return and time horizon features. Again, we're talking about the saying, the lower the risk, the lower the return, the higher the risk, the higher the return. There's no such thing as an investment outlet providing you with high potential return with very minimal risk. If there's such a thing, think twice, because you might be running into a potential investment scam. It goes hand in hand. The lower the risk, the lower the potential return. The higher the risk, the higher the potential return. When you talk about time horizon, you talk about the length of time you are willing and able to let go of your assets, or your money, or your principal, or your investable funds for it to work for you. Ideally, the longer amount of time you let go of your money, the higher it should pay you back. The shorter amount of time you let go or invest your money, the lower the return. We're going to drill down on these legitimate asset classes one item at a time, so that I get to make you understand what makes them legitimate. It does not necessarily mean though na pag wala dito, scam na agad. If you're going to observe, wala ditong UITFs. If you're going to observe, wala dito sa nakikita nyo ang mutual funds. If you're going to observe, wala dito ang real estate investment trust, because we're talking about asset classes pa lang. No? So UITFs, mutual funds, real estate investment trust, let's throw in exchange traded funds. They are legitimate. They are still legitimate investment outlets. But generally speaking, these are your asset classes. Yung mutual funds, bumibili siya ng deposits, bumibili siya ng money market. That's why merong money market funds. Yung mutual funds, UITFs, bumibili siya ng bonds, corporate bonds, government bonds. That's why there are fixed income UITFs, fixed income mutual funds, bond funds in general. Yung UITFs, ETFs, mutual funds, bumibili sila ng blue chip stocks or sa index funds, bumibili sila ng listed stocks. That's why you have equity funds, no? And then real estate investment trust. You're talking about a REIT and yung mag-IPO, no? Starting today pala, March 10. Double Dragon, Real Estate Investment Trust. They're buying income-generating real estate assets, real estate properties. No? So again, it does not necessarily mean na pag wala siya dito, hindi na siya legitimate. Remember, what I'm just showing you are legitimate investment asset classes. Now, back to the question, Andoy, what makes them legitimate? It's very important that you understand that they're legitimate because there are regulators basically regulating, administering, managing, and policing them. When it comes to deposits, sino bang regulators ng deposit accounts ng mga bangko? Of course, there's Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. When it comes to bonds, sino bang nagre-regulate sa kanila? Sino bang nagpo-police sa kanila? There's the Securities Exchange Commission. But of course, they also abide by the regulations of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Pagdating sa stocks, sino bang nagre-regulate sa kanila? There's the Philippine Stock Exchange, there's CMIC, there's the Securities Exchange Commission. When it comes to real estate, nandiyan din si BSP, nandiyan si BIR, nandiyan si HLURB, nandiyan si Registry of Deeds. No? Anong importansya nito, Andoy? Bakit kailangan nating malaman na meron palang regulators ang mga investment outlets? No? Well, unang-una sa lahat, it's actually for your advantage. It's actually to your advantage na meron siyang regulator. Kasi paano kung meron kang reklamo about your investment outlet? Paano kung gusto mong ireklamo yung kumausap sa'yo about your investments? Baka hindi na-explain sa'yo ng tama, mali yung pagkaka-explain sa'yo, nalulugi ka, sino yung gusto mong tanungin, kung tama ba yung pinasukan mo, pwede kang lumapit sa BSP, pwede kang lumapit sa SEC, pwede kang lumapit sa PSE, pwede kang lumapit sa Registry of Deeds, pwede kang lumapit sa mga regulators na nagpapatakbo at namamahala sa kanila. Yan ang, and again, that's what makes it very important, no, for investors to understand. That's essentially what makes them legitimate. No? So let's break it down one item at a time. When it comes to deposits or money market facilities, you're talking about time deposits, your regular checking and savings account na ma-open mo sa mga bangko. And you also have money market UITFs, money market mutual funds. There are also exchange-traded funds outside the Philippines investing heavily on money market or short-term outlets, no? Short-term fixed income outlets. Paano kumikita ang pera mo sa deposits? Kumikita to sa pamamagitan ng interest. And ang ideal time horizon naman sa deposits ay para doon sa mga investors, para doon sa mga tao na hindi naman ganoon kahaba ang time horizon. Again, review lang, no, ang time horizon, sabi nga natin, is the length of time you are willing and able to let go of your money for it to work for you. So short term, when we say short term, ideally less than 1 year to. So kung meron kang pera at alam mo na gagamitin mo siya, kakailanganin mo siya in less than a year, then ang ibig sabihin nun, the perfect, the ideal outlet na pwede mong paglagakan, pwede mong pag-investan, would be deposits or money market facilities. So sabi nga natin, no, it's more than anything else regulated by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. An additional information that you need to know about deposits is it's guaranteed. Meron siyang insurance. It's covered by PDIC or Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation. That's why sa mga radio ads, sa mga TV ads, hindi siya pwedeng matapos ng hindi sinasabi or hindi fina-flash sa screen na yung bangko na yun ay member of PDIC. Para malaman ng mga tao na kapag nag-invest sila dun sa produkto na yun or nag-deposit sila or nag-save sila dun sa produkto na yun, they are insured up to 500,000 pesos. But that 500,000 pesos only goes as far as one depositor per bank. So ibig sabihin nun, if you're banking, for example, with Metro Bank and you have 500,000 pesos, and for example, something happens to Metro Bank, you're going to PDIC will give you up to 500,000 pesos. If you have less than 500,000 pesos, let's say 200,000 pesos, then you're going to get 200,000 pesos from PDIC if something happens to Metro Bank. If you have more than 500,000 pesos, ang ibig sabihin naman nun is PDIC will step in. It will initially give you 500,000 pesos and depende, there's no such thing as a guarantee na kung ma-liquidate nila lahat ng assets ng bangko mo, in our example for Metro Bank, you're going to get a certain percentage of the balance, pwedeng 100% of the remaining 250,000 pesos or a certain percentage depending on their success rate, no, sa pag-liquidate ng mga assets. Now, how do you make money? Paano tayo kumikita sa pamamagitan ng interest? Sabi nga natin, no, hindi lahat ng tao pumupunta sa bangko to deposit. May mga ibang tao pumupunta sa bangko para mangutang ng pera. So yun yung capital market natin. It provides money to those who need money. It also provides the opportunity for those who have money to grow their money. So dito sa proseso na to, nagbibigay ng pera, nagde-deposito ang mga depositor sa bangko, at yung pera na yon ginagamit ng bangko para ipautang sa ibang tao na nangangailangan ng pera. Yung mga nangungutang, nagbabayad sila ng interest charges sa bangko. And ang going rate ng interest ngayon would be somewhere between 5, 8, 9, 10%. Ibig sabihin nun, for every 100 pesos na inuutang ng isang tao, nagbabayad siya ng extra 5, 8, 9, 10 pesos. At yun ang kita ng bangko. Pero, galing dun sa 5, 8, 9, 10 pesos na kita ng bangko, binabawasan niya yun ng konti. When I say konti, I'm talking about 0.125%. So for every 100 pesos naman na dinideposito ng mga taong may pera, ang bumabalik sa atin would be 0.125 centavos. Wala pang 50 centimos. Wala pang 25 centimos. 0.125 centavos. Ganon kaliit. That's why kung i-review natin, no, kung i-review natin yung chart, yung graph natin, nandito sa pinakababa ang deposits because it's providing us with low return, napakaliit din ng risk niya. Ano ba ang risk niya? Halos napakababa kasi nga meron tayong PDIC coverage up to 500,000 pesos per depositor per bank. Which now leads us to bonds, no? Ano naman ang bonds? Ang bonds, ito naman ay utang. Utang to ng pwedeng gobyerno sa pamamagitan ng government bonds or pwedeng utang to ng isang korporasyon sa pamamagitan ng corporate bonds. Umuutang sila hindi dahil lugi sila. Umuutang sila dahil kailangan nila ng extra na kapital para sa infrastructure projects, para sa mga gusto nilang gawin sa bansa, para sa rehabilitation projects, para sa expansion projects ng kumpanya, para sa mga bagong produkto at serbisyo. Tapos, syempre, dahil nangungutang sila, kailangan nilang bayaran yon. At ang bayad na yon, ibinibigay sa atin sa pamamagitan ng coupon payments. So yung mga coupon payments na yon, pwedeng every month, pwedeng every 3 months, pwedeng every 6 months, pwedeng once a year, pwede ring wala. Pero ang importante na dapat nating malaman dito sa bonds ay kapag nagpautang tayo, at the end of the bond, let's say 3-year bond, 5-year bond, 10-year bond, at the end of the life of the bond, kung magkano yung ipinautang natin sa korporasyon or sa gobyerno, ibabalik sa atin yun ng buong buo. Kaya ang kinikita natin dito is yung regular na coupon payments na nakukuha natin from the borrower. Another thing that we need to understand about bonds is that meron siyang, again, maturity date. So hindi siya forever. Ito dito ngayon pumapasok yung sinasabi natin na time horizon. The longer the amount of time you let go of your money, the higher it should pay you back. So ideally, yung 3-year bond versus a 10-year bond, dapat mas malaki ang kikitain mo sa 10-year bond kasi mas matagal na panahon na bibitawan mo yung pera. That's why it makes sense that if you have a medium to long-term time horizon, let's say more than 1 year to about 10 years, you can strongly consider putting your money in bonds. No? Sabi nga natin, ginagamit to ng korporasyon or ng gobyerno sa mga projects, expansion, at kapag kumita yung mga endeavors nila na yun, ibinabalik yun sa atin as investors sa pamamagitan ng capital gains because it gets priced every day, and of course regular coupon payments. There's also stocks or equities. Pag sinabi nating equities, parating katambal niyan yung salitang ownership. You're talking about not just investing in a company, not just buying a company, but co-owning. Talagang literal na co-owner ka na, part owner ka na ng kumpanya na yun. Ang tawag na nga sa'yo, hindi na talaga investor, but shareholder or a stockholder. Kumikita ang pera mo sa pamamagitan ng capital gains, lalo na kapag nakabili ka ng shares of stocks ng isang kumpanya ng mababa, at nananatili to sa pagtaas ng pagtaas, capital gains ang tawag doon. Nakabili ka ng piso per share, ibinenta mo when it reached 16 pesos per share, you make money off of it, that's capital gains. But of course, dahil nga part owner ka, shareholder ka ng isang kumpanya, eligible ka rin na makareceive ng parte ng kinita niya or profit sharing. Ang tawag naman natin doon is dividends. So itong dividends, hindi naman lahat ng stocks nagbibigay ng dividends kasi kahit naman gusto nilang magbigay ng dividends, kung wala naman silang kita, saan nila kukunin yung ipamimigay nila sa shareholders. No? That's why it's very important to research kung saan natin pwedeng ilagay ang pera. Hindi dahil bumili ka ng stock, automatically kailangan mo nang mag-expect na magkaka-dividends ka. No? Again, it's very important that you approach the right people to give you the right and sound investment advice. Compared to bonds na merong maturity, sa stocks, wala tong maturity. For as long as listed yung kumpanya, for as long as it's operating, your money is there. That's why it makes perfect sense that if you have a long-term time horizon of more than 10 years, you can definitely start investing in stocks. No? Kaya parati kong sinasabi sa mga bata, sa mga estudyante, sa mga kakaumpisa pa lang magtrabaho, take advantage of your age, take advantage of your youth, diba? Kasi if you're going to recall ang formula ng interest or I equals PRT, principal times rate times time. No matter how small your principal, no matter how small the rate of return is, for as long as mahaba yung time, matagal yung time na nag-invest ka sa market, that should be enough. No, of course, that's not how simple you need to look at investing. But from a formula standpoint, it's very important that we strongly consider investing the soonest time possible. All right. Sabi nga natin, merong regulators, no? So you have for deposits or for banks, you have Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. For bonds, you have SEC and also BSP. For stocks, there's also BSP, there's also SEC, but ultimately you also have the Philippine Stock Exchange. Our money makes more money by way of the stock market because again, ginagamit to ng korporasyon, no, na binibili natin, na part owner tayo para sa projects, para sa expansion, para sa promotion, para sa marketing and ads. And if those endeavors are successful enough, it will generally rake in more money. It will generally rake in more profits for the company, which will translate to more and more people getting attracted to buying that particular listed company, listed corporation off of the stock market. And also, you need to understand that real estate properties are also legitimate investment outlets. Ang problema lang natin sa real estate investments, no, is of course high barrier to entry. Napakamahal ng real estate properties because of if you're going to look at it from a supply and demand standpoint, parami ang mga tao na gustong magkaroon ng bahay at lupa pero hindi naman nanganganak ng panibagong bahay at lupa ang si Mother Earth, no. So hindi ganoon kadali because of again simple law of supply and demand. That's why you're seeing more and more people, even real estate developers, going vertical. Kasi yung isang maliit na property, for them to be able to accommodate more and more people, there's nowhere for you to go but up. Multi-level, condominium, yung iba sa mga residential properties, sinasagad up to third floor na merong roof deck just for them to be able to make the most out of the space. Mataas yung barrier to entry, not as liquid, again, because mahal. No matter how many Facebook friends you have, no matter how many Instagram, Twitter followers you have, kahit post ka ng post, house and lot for sale, there's very little chance na mabenta mo siya going that route because again, it's a once in a lifetime. Madalas it's a once in a lifetime investment. That's why secondary market is limited and valuation is subjective. But then again, it's still a legitimate investment option. No? Sa real estate, if you're going to look at BIR's website, makikita mo din doon yung progression ng zonal values. Makikita mo doon kung ano yung zonal value per area. No? Again, pataas ang properties, ang cost ng value ng property because more and more people are looking for it, pero less and less available real estate properties are in the market. All right. So to recap, when you talk about deposits, you talk about low potential risk, pero of course, together with it, should be low potential return. I'm talking about 0.125% at best for regular deposit accounts. Our money grows by way of interest earnings. Dito natin napag-usapan na hindi lahat ng tao na pumupunta sa bangko ay nagde-deposito. May ibang tao na pupunta doon para mangutang at sila yung nagbabayad naman ng interest charges sa bangko na doon kinukuha ang pambayad sa atin as depositors sa pamamagitan ng interest earnings. The ideal time horizon if you're considering deposits would be short term. Ito yung sum of money that in less than a year's time gagamitin mo rin at withdrawin mo kasi may pagkagastusan ka. And ang regulator nito, that's basically what makes it legitimate, is BSP. All right. Next is bonds. So recap, low risk, low return deposits, bonds, medium risk, medium return. Kasi meron ng risk to, especially when it comes to corporate bonds. No? Pwede na silang malugi, pwedeng hindi nila mabayaran yung utang, lalo na kung hindi nag-fly, hindi naging successful yung expansion nila, hindi naging successful yung mga bagong produkto at serbisyo nila. Growth drivers ng bonds, you have capital appreciation or yung pagtaas ng presyo ng mismong bond na binili mo, and you have regular coupon payments. No? Pwedeng may mga monthly, may quarterly, may biannual, and merong annual. The ideal time horizon, if you're considering to invest in bonds, would be medium term or more than 1 year to about 10 years. Ang regulators ng bond market would be BSP and SEC primarily. Then you have stocks. Sa stocks, meron tayong mataas na probability of risk, pero mataas din ang probability of return. You have the option to earn by way of capital appreciation, especially when you buy something low and you sell something high. And you also have the potential to earn dividends because you're not just an investor, you're also a part owner of the company. That's why it makes you eligible to receive a certain percentage of the profits of that company on a regular basis. May mga ibang kumpanya na nagbibigay once a year, may iba twice a year, may iba 3 times a year, may iba quarterly. So it really depends on the generosity and the overall performance of that company. That's why it's ideal for you to invest in stocks if you have a long-term time horizon. Kaya mong mag-invest on a regular basis, kaya mong iwanan yung pera mo doon for the next 10 years or so. Ang regulators ng stock market, you have the Philippine Stock Exchange, you have the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, and you have the Securities Exchange Commission. And lastly, higher risk, higher return real estate investments. Na pag-usapan natin kung bakit. You have higher barrier to entry, mahal, law of supply and demand. Maraming tao ang gustong magkaroon ng bahay at lupa pero hindi na ganun karami ang available real estate properties. That's why developers are going vertical. May mga iba nga developers na nagre-reclamation pa, no? So kino-convert nila yung body of water to land just for them to be able to construct properties, no? Paano kumikita ang pera natin dito? You have capital appreciation. Sabi nga natin, sa zonal value pa lang ng BAR, nakikita nyo na yung progression, no? Yung pagtaas. Lalo na kung nagiging commercial siya, nako-convert from residential to commercial or agricultural to residential, tumataas ang value ng lupa. Tapos syempre pwede rin tayong kumita sa pamamagitan ng pagre-renta, pagpaparenta at pag-open ng real estate properties natin for lease. The ideal time horizon, of course, for real estate investing is also long-term. But of course, meron ding mga investment opportunities na short-term, lalo na sa condominiums, no? Yung mga nakakabili ng pre-selling, pag tumaas ang value ng condominium by the time it gets turned over at na-construct na, they also have the option to sell sa secondary market. Sa real estate investments, ang regulators natin dyan marami. Shared responsibilities to ng BAR, HLURB, Registry of Deeds, BSP, and Securities Exchange Commission. No? Now, it's also very important to understand na investing is personal. Kaming mga investment professionals, no, we should actually be talking less and asking more for us to better understand you as an investor. It's only during webinars like this, it's only during speaking engagements na kami yung parating salita ng salita because, again, we are the resource persons. Pero sa totoong buhay for us to provide you with the sound investment advice, dapat kami yung magtanong ng magtanong para mas makilala namin kayo. And that is really a testament, no? That's one sign that you're actually talking to an investment professional. Kung hindi puro siya yung nagsasalita, hindi puro recommendation. Hindi, dito tayo mag-invest, no? Dapat malaman muna namin, makilala muna namin kayo for us to be able to provide you with an intelligible recommendation. It's supposed to suit your personality, your sensitivities, your risk appetite, your investment experience, your capacity to invest. No? That's why kung conservative investor ka man, or somewhere in between, or aggressive investor, seasoned investor ka, maganda dyan na malaman mo kung ano yung investment options na bagay sa'yo. If you're a conservative investor, more or less, pinakabagay sa'yo na starting ground would be deposits or money market at best, money market funds. If you're moderately conservative, syempre, pwede ka sa deposits, pwede ka na rin sa bonds or bond funds. If you're moderately aggressive, pwede ka sa deposits, pwede ka sa bonds, and pwede ka nang mag-venture into stocks. And if you're the aggressive type, dapat meron ka na ring deposits, meron kang exposure sa bonds, meron kang stocks, and pwede ka nang mag-venture into real estate investing. All I'm really saying is there's no such thing as the one. There's no such thing as the perfect, the best investment outlet. If you're going to ask me, you need to have liquidity from deposits. Dapat meron kang emergency funds worth 6 to 12 months of your average monthly expenses. You need to have stability provided by bonds. No, sabi nga natin, it provides you with a regular stream of income by way of deposits. You also need to have appreciation by way of the stock market, lalo na if you're in investing in owning, no, co-owning very good and consistent dividend paying companies. And most importantly, yung earnings mo from your interest sa deposits, yung earnings mo from your dividends, yung earnings mo from your coupon payments, yun ang pwede mong gamitin for you to be able to start acquiring or start investing in real estate assets. Kasi no matter how expensive they might be, that's essentially the reason why you started investing in the first place. Ang intention natin to invest is to grow our money for us to be able to acquire more and more investment assets, real estate included. All right. So that pretty much sums up our QuarantInvestments, the legitimate investment outlets in the Philippines. Why are they QuarantInvestments? Because when you talk about money market, when you talk about bonds, when you talk about stocks or equities, even when you talk about real estate investing, you have all sorts of online outlets available. You can invest for a conservative investor. You may invest in deposits by way of money market mutual funds. If you're a moderately aggressive investor, you may invest in bonds by way of bond funds or direct bonds through your online broker. If you would like to invest in stocks, you have equity funds, you have direct stocks, you have exchange traded funds, which you can order online from your online broker, stock brokerage firm. Whether via their platform or their mobile apps. And if you're an aggressive investor, pero sa palagay mo wala ka pang enough capital to buy an actual real estate property, you have real estate investment trusts, which is also something you may avail of online. Perhaps with our next webisode, I'm going to discuss these investment options for you. But for now, that's your QuarantInvestments, your legit investment outlets for the new normal. So thank you for spending time with us, and I do hope you subscribe to our YouTube channel and watch out for our next webisodes. Thank you.